the calisthenics actually means beauty and strength. But I can assure you that if you are currently dealing with an injury, even if it's quite a serious injury, that it will get better if you start moving. As a beginner, if you go into a gym, like, I've got the utmost respect for anybody who goes and they're trying to better themselves wherever they are.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
It's been a little while, isn't it? So until we managed to get you here, just trying to find that appropriate window, isn't it? But it's probably worthwhile just introducing yourself to everybody.
Yeah. So my name is Phil Kivell, and I am the creator of Body Project Calisthenics Gym. Had the gym for around about 7 years now, and basically, as we'll probably get into, calisthenics is my love, my passion. It's something that I'm very invested in, and it's something that I really enjoy sharing with other people.
So when people think of a gym, it's a lot about bench, squats, press, all of that, right? And that's the model gym you have. I had to think about calisthenics, and I thought, you know what? This is like why children are so strong. They're in playgrounds doing monkey bars and climbing up stuff, and that's kind of the functional benefit you get out of calisthenics. But it's probably worthwhile just sort of talking about what calisthenics is, because it's you still have a gym, people still go, and they get incredibly fit and strong. There's so many benefits to it, but it's probably worthwhile explaining what calisthenics is.
Yeah, so I mean, calisthenics is, in my opinion, calisthenics is a very broad term that encompasses a lot of different things. But in essence, calisthenics is basically bodyweight training. So that could include, like, a gymnast will use calisthenics for their conditioning. Now, gymnastics and calisthenics are different because gymnastics is more of an artistic routine. So a gymnast is not going to do a set of pull-ups or muscle-ups in their routine, but they would use that as a strength and conditioning tool for their training. So there are links between calisthenics and gymnastics. So in calisthenics, we do use a lot of we use the rings a lot, the gymnastics rings, and we incorporate a lot of handstand, hand balancing exercises, all your kind of static holds. So things like iron cross, planche, lever. For the guys who are listening that might know what those are. Those are basically like static holds where you basically suspend your body weight in the air. We also use things like the parallel bars a lot, the pull-up bars, and then, also basic exercises. So in essence, calisthenics is like pull-ups, press-ups, dips, squats, things like that. But it's also handstands, advanced skills. And I would also put things like, breakdancing is its own thing, but there are a lot of similarities between calisthenics and breakdancing because it's very much about putting your own stamp and your own style on the training that you're doing. And then even things like, pole fitness and stuff like that, it is its own thing, but I would say it's under the bracket of calisthenics because calisthenics is just body weight training. And something that's interesting is that the calisthenics actually means beauty and strength. So it's two Greek words, which is kalos and phenos, which is beauty and strength, which is kind of, what I was saying about people will put their own stamp on it. It's all about making certain movements look a certain way and exploring the way that your body moves and works.
It can be quite daunting hearing that, especially if you're really wanting to improve your health. There's a lot you get fed over the various media, which is around for great bone density, you've got to lift heavy, et cetera, et cetera. But there has to be a lot of benefit even to the person who wants to start and is looking for something different. There has to be something said. If you can't do a press up, don't do a bench press.
I would agree with that. So kind of what I've observed in the time that I've been like teaching people to do it is there is a level for everybody. Like, it's all about progression. So you might have, I've worked with people that are literally completely new to any form of training. Like, they've never stepped in the gym in their life, and they come and they do calisthenics. Now, people, sometimes they think that they've either got like a skewed idea of what it is, that they either think it's way too easy or it's way too hard, and there's not this middle ground. So for example, if I get someone who's a complete beginner and they see someone do a pull-up, they can quite easily write themselves off because that seems like a long way away, but that's not where that person's going to start. And same even with things like press-ups, people assume that that's like the entry level, but it's not. There's literally sitting down and standing up from a sofa could be an entry level for some people, which is absolutely fine. That's the starting point for that individual. So let's work up from there and follow this like progression system, like a ladder, step-by-step progression to get you from A to B to C to D to wherever, and then you can take it as far as you want. So that's one side of it, is that people will look at it and they think that the bar to entry is too high because they're focusing on exercises that are down the line for them. But then I'll also get people that are, say, regular gym goers, and they can do pull-ups and they can do like some of the basic calisthenic stuff, and they're like, oh, it's too easy. But they're only focusing on that level. It's like, okay, so that's too easy. Let's now work on a muscle up, or let's now take your training onto the rings. Like, we can progress it the same way as we can progress any other training. So strength training is strength training, and there's a lot of different ways that we can train for strength. So obviously you've had Josh on here, who is a Olympic weightlifter, and that's another great way to train for strength. But it is still it's still strength training, and it follows the same principles. So if you want to get stronger, you need to start where you're at, and then you need to tweak it a little bit to make it a little bit harder, and then you can move to your next level. And with people that look at it and they think, oh, it's easy because it's body weight and I can lift more than my body weight, they just need to find a way to manipulate the body weight so it's now harder for them to move it. And you can do that by adjusting the angle of your body, your hand positioning, your levers, all that kind of stuff. So what I'm basically trying to say here, in a very long-winded way, is that there's a starting point for everybody. The thing is to find the correct starting point for you. And that is something that you can do well and consistently that makes you feel good about yourself, rather than either picking something that's way too hard and feeling completely defeated by the fact that you can't do it, or picking something that's way too easy and getting, you get a little bit bored. You're like, well, this is not a challenge for me. So it's about getting that sweet starting point and then working from there.
There must be some benefit in terms of getting that symmetry in your joints. Sorry, the symmetry within your posture.
Yeah.
Which helps the joints and gets your shoulders in a particular way, might get your lats in a particular way, get your hips right. I think there's a lot of us now suffering with things like, I don't know sure what the shoulder tilt is, but that, plus also the front, the pelvic tilt as well. And that's due to having very tight hamstrings or very tight abductors or whatever it might be.
Modern life, basically.
For sure, a lot of us are finding ourselves sat on chairs at desks, which we would be, even driving loads. All the delivery drivers out there, big shout out to them. They're going to be very tight and wondering why they've got a bad back or whatever else. So I'm assuming that we'll get into what does a typical day at the gym look like, but I'm assuming that there's a lot to be said around stretching as well.
Yes, 100%. I mean, the stretching is very important, or like mobilizing your body is very important. And for some people, that might be something that they need to address separately. But what I've found is that a lot of the time, if you can focus on getting your fundamental movements down and right, that will address at least 80% of your issues. So for example, like I see a lot of the same things with people that are new to the gym. Like you're saying, they've got the rounded shoulders, the pelvis is tilted because they sit down a lot. They've got tight hamstrings. It's very similar for a lot of people. So usually if we work on, there's a lot of hanging in calisthenics. And hanging is one of the best things that you can do if you have bad shoulders. So to anyone who's listening now who's got bad shoulders and they maybe don't want to start going to the gym or for whatever reason, and they just want to do one thing for the posture, I would advise them to try and hang every day. Just for a couple of minutes. It doesn't have to be all in one go. It can be like in sections, but that's an amazing kind of mobilization for your shoulders. And then, basic exercises like lunges and squats, if you do them right, yes, you can do them with weight as well. But for a lot of people, if they can just get to a standard where they can move their body weight well, it will address a lot of those issues. The reason that people have a lot of the issues that they have is because they don't move as much as they should. If you're spending a lot of time sat down at a desk or you're driving, then you are teaching your body that this is the position that it needs to be in. Whereas if you are, you're doing a lot of movement and you're keeping your joints nice and loose, then you're not going to have those problems. So it all comes down to what you're doing the majority of the time. And are you then trying to counteract that with something else that is the opposite of that?
Mm-hmm.
And that will build the balance.
So the challenge is, isn't there, that aesthetics is some of the goals. And I can understand exactly why. You look good, you feel good mentally, you're a lot sharper. So shout out to all the gyms and everyone going to them. That's fine. I think you offer a version of that which ends up with the same outcome.
Mm-hmm.
It's a slightly different way of going about it, so it might be worthwhile. Your gym, it's fab, by the way. So it's in Evans House, just in Warrington. It's a fantastic setup. Everything looks like it. You've got scaffolding and everything else around, yeah. Which is, like you're saying, you sort of hang off stuff and push stuff and move things around. I think it's kind of based on the old Paleolithic type approach, which was get up in the morning, you go for a run to go and find the food, you run for 10 miles, go and find it, you've sweated in the morning, you've done your cardio, you found the food, you brought it back, created fire, and then you probably would then go and build something in the afternoon once you've eaten the meat and everything else, and that's kind of the way we're designed. That's the way it is, and you've obviously with technology we've kind of lost that a little bit. But within your gym, I noticed that you have. It'd be worth talking around the type of facility you have, but you also have ice cold baths as well.
Yeah,
which I think that's great for. Is it cellular regeneration? I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's probably. Let's honestly, I'm so excited that you're here because it's such a different approach to anything I'd seen before. I've never been in a calisthenics gym before. I knew about calisthenics. I've seen it on YouTube before. As you know, I was in the CrossFit community at the time and day. So just one of those things where you have the same philosophies and you have the same team spirit. But when you get to your gym, what do people expect to see, and what would a typical sort of ground entry class would that look like for them?
So if I kind of take you through a class, like a regular class that we do, so we do a few different ones. We do calisthenics specific classes, which kind of cover all bases, and they are like full body, and they cover all of the basics. Then we do have classes that focus just on handstands and hand balancing, which is still calisthenics, but because it's quite a comprehensive skill, we have a separate class for that. And then we also have the ice baths as well. So in terms of the calisthenics session, the way that they're structured is, as I said before, everything's about progression and it's very individual. So everybody gets something a little bit different. And the reason that that's quite easy to do in a class format is because we're not using weights, because you're using your body weight, you can amend the workout for your ability. So, for example, yesterday we were working on a skill. So we spend the first 15 minutes of the class, once we've got warmed up, we spend the first 15 minutes of the class working on a skill. Now, yesterday's skill, it was something called a front lever, which is basically where you hold onto a bar, you suspend your full body in a horizontal position, with your chest facing the ceiling. So you're holding onto the bar and you're basically pressing down as hard as you can to try and hold your body out straight. Now, that is a reasonably difficult skill to do. All right. Well, it's a hard skill to do. So say I might get a beginner who comes in. It could take them 18 months to 2 years to get to that skill, maybe even a little bit longer depending on where they're starting from. But they can still get the benefit of that skill by working on an easier progression, something that's going to challenge them. So if I've got, say, 10 people, I might have like 3 that are brand new, 3 that have been doing it for a few months, and then maybe 3 or 4 that are like well into it, that can do the full kind of exercise. I'll set them all up with something that is relevant for them. So usually I would say, right, the front lever is a hold. So it's a position that you would hold for time. So let's find a progression that the individual can manage for between 5 to 15 seconds. If you can kind of stay in that bracket, that is a good amount of time to hold a position in order to build strength. Now, if it's closer towards the 5-second mark, then that is much more working on pure strength. Just like if you were doing a 1 rep max with your deadlifts or your squats, or like, sets of 3 heavy lifting. That is the equivalent, is doing the really like max effort 5 seconds. So let's build that up until you can do 15. And then that shows me that individual is now, pretty confident with the particular progression. So now that, over time, we're going to make that a little bit harder. We're going to drop it back to 5 seconds, but I'm going to give them something harder to do. So maybe they might have to put a leg out, or they've got to move on to a harder progression where they're taking 100% of the body weight in like a position that's a little bit harder for them to hold. So each individual will get their own exercise that is suited to their ability, and we'll work on that.
Even though they're in a class.
Even though they're in a class, because it's all working towards the same thing. So it's quite easy for me to monitor where people are and then progress them. And it's not like, say if you went to a gym and you were training with someone who's way stronger than you, and you've got to take weights off a bar every set, and then you've got to put them back on for the person who's stronger. It doesn't really work like that, because obviously you're using your body weight. So we'd start with this skill aspect of the class. So yesterday it was the front lever. So they've got one static exercise that they would pick, something they can hold for 5 to 15 seconds. They then have maybe a minute and a half break, and they would pick another exercise which is dynamic. So the dynamic exercise is basically an exercise which is repetitions rather than a hold. So for example, it might be something like ab rollouts or pull-ups or leg raises or whatever it is. And again, that exercise is scalable to an individual. So for some people, they might be literally hanging on a bar with the feet on the floor and then bringing the knees up and then back to the floor. That might be like an entry level for some people. And then someone else might be hanging on a bar and they bring the legs up straight all the way to a bar, so like a toes to bar. And then someone else might be doing a lever raise, so they keep the whole body straight and they lift the whole body up in a straight line. So those exercises are the same, they're progressive. So I'd usually get people to work, they pick 2 exercises that they can manage, they have a little break in between them, and they alternate between those 2 exercises for 15 minutes. So we're building some volume in the exercises, and we're working on like something that's quite technical. The second part of the session would then work on all the parts of the body that we have not touched on in the first bit. So in the case of yesterday, a front lever is very back heavy, back and core. So we then, in the second part of the session, which is more conditioning, so they do 3 sets per exercise, they do alternate with a partner, so they do 40 seconds on, partner goes for 40 seconds, and they kind of work like that. So those exercises would be push exercises, leg exercises, and maybe some other supplementary exercises that are going to assist with the bit that they've done in the first part of the session. So basically the session will work on a skill that is manageable for the individual. We then either support the skill with exercises, or we work on the parts of the body that we've not touched on with the skill, and then we'd finish off with some stretching. So it's kind of like it covers all bases on like training the body and making sure everything's balanced and everything is worked efficiently, and it's all going towards an end goal. There's always a goal in calisthenics, so it's not so much like there are competitions in calisthenics, obviously, but it's
You've
more.
got some national champs, haven't you, at your place?
Yeah, so we hosted the regionals, which was the UKCO, which is the UK Calisthenics Organisation. We hosted the regionals last weekend, and we have the nationals, which is in September, and that'll be like all of the top guys from up and down the country, UK and Ireland, will come to battle it out on like kind of various different disciplines. Because this is another thing that's worth mentioning is when you said before, like calisthenics is a different take on fitness. It's a different take on a lot of styles of fitness. So what I mean by that is, for this competition, you have strength and endurance. So all of the athletes that are in different categories they've all got a different mindset and a different training style depending on the discipline within calisthenics that they do. So strength and endurance is lots of repetitions of basic exercises. So it usually is made up of muscle-ups, pull-ups, dips, squats, and push-ups. And they'll have to do so many of each exercise, and basically the fastest time wins. But it's all very conscious of perfect form. If your form isn't right, if your legs kip up a little bit, or you swing, or you don't lock your arms, or whatever, you will not get the rep counted. So it's very much perfect form, basic movements. Then you've got freestyle. Now, freestyle is definitely more of a spectator sport. So that's when they're doing all the flips, they're catching the bar, they're doing the 360s. And it's like a performance. It's a little bit more similar to gymnastics, but it's a little bit more rugged and a bit more of like, I would say like kind of like a hip hop style. Like it originates from, the freestyle originates more from like the New York side of calisthenics. So it's, if people have never seen it, I would encourage them to go on YouTube and just type in freestyle calisthenics and go and check that out. So that is slightly different. And then you've got power, which is like a powerlifting version of calisthenics. So the athletes that do the power, they will have to do, it's a 1 rep max on pull-ups, muscle-ups, dips, and usually a back squat as well. So it's the type of guys that are doing that. You'll notice that all these people do calisthenics, but they're all built very differently. Like the guys that do the endurance and the power are usually quite built, whereas the guys that do the freestyle are usually a lot lighter because they've got to throw themselves around the bar.
Okay.
And then the final category is, which is the one that I like, the type of calisthenics I like, is the statics, which is a combination of gymnastics holds and advanced dynamic movements. So think like freestanding handstand press ups, think like holds on the rings, and like all sorts of stuff. It's not, but it's all about perfect form. You get a lot of points for your form being really nice. So having your toes pointed, making sure that you can flow from one movement into another in like a creative way. So you'd get marked on difficulty of skills that you do, difficulty of the static skills you do, difficulty of the dynamic skills you do. You then also get graded on the way that you can put it all together, and then the form. So this is what I was saying earlier. It's like you can put your own spin on it. Everyone's got their own style, which it's quite cool, because there will be certain moves that, say if I'm going against someone who's like a specialist in like 1-arm pull-ups, and they can do 1-arm pull-ups in a lot of different ways, because there are like a few ways you can, I know it sounds like, oh, just do a 1-arm pull-up, but there are quite a few different like things that people can do to make them look fancy. Like they might wind up with 1 arm, or like just little things like that, to make it a little bit of like a showmanship type thing. But then there'll be like somebody else that really like specializes in hand balancing, or really specializes on the rings. So it's like all of it all kind of comes together, and everyone's got the strengths, is what I'm trying to say. So it makes it that I might not be able to do something as well as somebody else, but I might be able to do something better. So it's how well I can put something together against how well someone else can put something together, and then the person who puts it all together in the best way and racks up the most amount of points, they would win that category.
Right. It's quite interesting, isn't it, when you see different sports and different types of gym disciplines, I guess. In the end, you always end up with an elite version.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in other words, what you're just talking about is somebody who comes to your place will probably concentrate on, as you said, knees, hips, joints. To concentrate on those, develops the muscle strength in terms of the quads, abs, get a decent chest out of it. So it'd be something like squats, press, and pull-ups, right?
Yeah.
And it's a variation of those. But of course, you're going to have then elites of that who would want to compete. Same with high rocks and CrossFit and all those things that you end up with the elite version. But at the end of the day, it's a sport a bit like doing Ironman.
Yeah.
Or run a marathon, challenge yourself. You can target and say, actually, I'm pretty decent now at pull-ups. I'm going to give it a go. So I think that's a real plus for the calisthenics. I think brings it to the masses as well, and people can understand. I mean, everybody, men and women. I mean, you're in fantastic shape. Right? There's no question about it. That didn't come accidentally, and you can just see the benefits because it must work. It must work the joints in a way which really helps the fibers of the muscle and everything else as well.
The thing is that do I think that everybody needs to be elite to get a lot out of it? And the answer is no, I don't. I mean, say you are... Not everybody wants to compete. Like, this is actually... This competition that I competed in, the regionals, is the first time I've ever competed in calisthenics, and I've been doing it for 12 years. It wasn't really on my radar. I do this for me. I love it. I love the sport. I love the training. And it's kind of like, well, what else am I going to do? It's not like I'm not training to look good for a holiday. I'm training because I want to learn skills and I just enjoy it. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it. That's number one for me. But like I see people that just come in and they do their 2-3 sessions a week and they just do it because they want to be fit. They're not bothered about competing. They're maybe not even bothered about learning the super advanced skills. They just get good at the basics. And the basics are what will give you all of the benefits, so like your quality of movement, your quality of life, your vitality, the way that your body feels, the way that your joints feel. That's all the basics. And then, yeah, sure, if you want to take it further, then take it further, and you can go all the way. But it's like when I first started, I was watching people do things like muscle ups, and I was like, oh, I'd be really happy if I could do one muscle up. And now I got a muscle up. Now the goalpost has moved. But I didn't start off, when I first started my journey, I wasn't like, oh, I want to do all the things that I could do now. I didn't really care. I was just like, to be honest, when I first started, my goal was I wanted to look a little bit better. It was a lot more of like, I wouldn't say vanity, because everyone wants to look a little bit better. But the goals change as you get more into something. And I think that's the same with anything.
Yeah.
So, it's just about getting started and finding what you actually want out of it, because that is different for everybody. Some people might just want more energy so they can keep up with the kids, and some people might just not want to be in pain all the time, because there's a lot of people that have got this discomfort that they just live with, and that's because it creeps in over time. So they might just want to get rid of that, and that's enough for them, and that's absolutely fine. So it's about an individual, and it's about what they want out of it and what they're willing to put into it as well.
I think that's a really good message for everybody, because there will be some folk who are looking for something different, scared as well, because everything hurts. But actually, you don't have to hurt.
Yeah, no, you don't.
But you have to. What's it? If you don't use it, you lose it. But you will get it back. The body is unbelievable. I think when we were talking to Josh, it's unbelievable what the body can do.
Yeah.
And you're scared to push it because it hurts. And it probably hurt for a little while. Your neck might hurt for another 4 months or something.
Yeah, it's a process. It's a process.
You're getting your posture right again, and you're engaging and setting fire to those muscles you probably haven't used for a long time.
Exactly. And when people are in that spot, let's say we take someone who they've never been to a gym in their life, and they've got a job where they don't move a lot, and they're looking at stuff like the different types of training, and it's intimidating. And I understand that, because like I was one of those people. Like, I'm not a naturally athletic person. When I was in school, I was in a mixed group PE group called Aquafun. It was tragic, but that's how like exercisey I was as a child. And the good thing about that, actually, as a little side note, is the guy who, my PE teacher in school, now comes to my gym, and he was like, "Oh, you must be the most elite person to come out of Aquafun." I was like, "Oh, I'll take that."
Yeah, absolutely, take it.
I'll take that. But like, what I'm trying to say is, like, I was not an athletic kid. I wasn't good at any sports in school. I mean, I did rollerblading, as I told you before. I was into my extreme sports, but I wasn't fit. I wasn't strong. I wasn't fit, and I wrote myself off for a long time because I tried to do the regular gym thing with the weights, and like, it wasn't for me, and I was quite intimidated by it. So I can relate to people that are in that spot. But the main thing is just to get started and just get moving, and just like take your time with it, and just try and enjoy the process of it, and not to put too much pressure on yourself. Something that is great at the moment is that we can see things on social media, yeah, but it's also not great in that people say, if you go on, you've never trained, you've never gone to a gym, it's something you're like, right, I'm aware that I could probably do with doing this because I've got aches and pains, I'm not getting any younger, like, all these kind of things. And then you go on TikTok and you see like someone in their early 20s doing like a muscle up 720, then doing 2 backflips and landing and being like this, and you're just going to be like, well, that's not for me. And like, don't focus on that. Just focus on, right, let's just get started and make some small improvements, and then you start to get empowered by that, and then it moves on to something else, and then before you know it, you're like, wow, I can do stuff now that was impossible for me to do.
Yeah.
But it's like I keep saying, it's a process, and you need to look at it as a process, and it's no one else's process than yours. So just like, be kind to yourself, and also accept that, like, if you go to a gym, people think, if they're new, that people are going to look at them and be like, oh, what's he doing? But as a beginner, if you go into a gym, like, I've got the utmost respect for anybody who goes and they're trying to better themselves wherever they are, because they're moving forward, and that's commendable.
Yeah.
And you need to remember that anybody that you look at that's good at something will have started where you're at, and they will have an understanding of that process, and they'll respect the process that you're going through. And if you ask them, they'll probably help you and give you some pointers.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. There is a respect. You're even if you see somebody running down the road, clearly may not have had a run for a long time, but you go, respect to you.
Fair play.
You're given it. You're right. You're there, and you're out. Even if you end up walking it,
yeah, you're 100%.
Good on you.
Well, so,
and that's the encouragement everybody gets in any community.
Yeah.
Gym. There is a respect. Honestly, you'd be amazed at how many people don't laugh at you.
Yeah, well,
it's not. It isn't about that. It's about training.
It is, and
training.
So this is a statistic for anybody who is starting the fitness journey, and they are thinking that they're not doing very well. A good little statistic is that 14% of this country has a gym membership. All right, 14% of this country has a gym membership. Out of that 14%, how many actually use it? I would say that's going to take it down to about 8 or 9. Out of that 8 or 9 people, how many of them are like actually going in and doing something that's moving them forward, not just going and like sitting on the phone, that's going to take it down to maybe 4. Then out of those people, how many of them are making an effort with the nutrition and stuff like that? So for guys that they are making the effort, and they're going to the gym and they're trying the best. I'm not saying it has to be perfect, because it's not. When you first start doing something, you might make a lot of mistakes, and that's part of it. Like that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, don't think everything needs to be perfect and optimal straight away, because you learn as you go. But if you're making the effort to train, and you're making the effort to eat better, and you're making the effort to have a better lifestyle, you are in a very, very small percentile. So you should give yourself a pat on the back for doing that and getting out there. And it's easy when you are in that space where you say you go into a gym and you look at all these people and you're like, look at all these super fit people, but that's not the majority. That's just, you're surrounding yourself with those people. That's not the majority. So you should, just be proud of yourself that you are doing something, because, you are the minority for doing that.
That's a brilliant stat, and it's probably true. In fact, you probably understand the business model now.
Yeah.
You stack the memberships high, and you know that a high percentage of those aren't going to be going.
Well, if everyone turned up,
20 quid a month or the 40 quid a month.
Exactly. If every member of Pure Gym turned up to Pure Gym, they would have to turn people away. It wouldn't be able to accommodate for them. Yeah. That's how those gyms work.
Yeah. There is a psychological element to it, where you're perhaps thinking about bettering yourself, and there's a genuine desire. People do wake up one day and go, I really can't do this anymore. I need to better myself. And the very first thing they may do is go to a gym and pay for the membership and go, right, I'm now ready to go. But I'll start on Monday, maybe Tuesday. Yeah. But never go. And the reason is because the dopamine effect has already happened. I've already paid for the gym, and I've told the missus, or I've told my husband, and I've told my mates that I've paid for the gym. The dopamine hit's already happened, and then they don't go. I've kind of already been in my brain. Yeah. And then again that cycle then starts. There is a cycle element to that business model, which is quite interesting. So I think also calisthenics, sort of moving away from the beginner, those people who are aches and pains and everything else, I think there's also a real benefit for people who are going to the gym, who maybe not making the gains they're looking for, or there's something not quite right. We've talked about balance. Balance is really important. So I'm not quite getting that press I should be, or whatever. There could be something in the shot, could be something in the back, wherever else. I do think that calisthenics for the person who is a gym goer, who is fit and healthy, would have a lot of benefit for going to your gym anyway.
100%. So, it's something fresh and exciting as well. Like, I think you should, if you want to train and you want to better yourself wherever you're at, I think being excited about what you're doing is one of the most important things. And I'm not saying that, like, there's not one thing for everybody. Like, calisthenics is my thing. It's what I love to do, and it has been for a long time. But if it doesn't resonate with you, it doesn't resonate with you. However, if it does, if it gets you excited, then you should entertain it, and you should kind of walk that path and see where you can get to. But in terms of like your regular gym goers, a lot of the stuff that they do is isolation, or they're sat down, or they're laying on the back to do the exercises. Calisthenics is working everything. Like, you do a pull-up, it's working everything. You do a pull-up, an L-sit pull-up, which is where your legs are out in front of you. Now that is working literally everything in your upper body, your core, your hip flexors, to like quite a high level with very minimal equipment as well. So you can do it anywhere. It's like when lockdown happened and everyone was flapping about, there's no gym. I've got a pull-up bar in my garden. It was business as usual for me. Like, everything resumed. I could basically do everything because my body is a gym. I've got access to unlimited weights machines that I have built within myself by learning certain exercises and certain skills. And then in terms of, you know, your regular gym goer who maybe is a little bit tight or whatever, incorporating some calisthenics is going to plug the gaps that they're not filling. And it's not, again, this is like, it's all I do because it gives me everything that I want personally. It gives me everything that I want, and I'm happy with the results that I get. But if somebody likes lifting weights, then carry on lifting weights. But incorporate some calisthenics as well, because it's going to bring a whole new aspect to your training. It's a whole new dimension. And it might be that you just start with some basics and you're like, right, I'm just going to start with this. Like a lot of people, when they start, you know, they do the weights and stuff, and they'll start with pull-ups and press-ups and dips. Get them right, and then when they feel really good, right, now I might give this a go. And then you might find that, like, over the space of time, starting off, you were doing 90% weights, 10% calisthenics. And then you might think, oh, actually, I want to do a little bit more calisthenics because I can see how this is working. My elbows feel really good. My shoulders feel good. I'm still building muscle. I'm still looking really good. And I've got all of these added benefits. So let's swap out like, some shoulder press, and let's start working towards a handstand press up, or let's start working towards a muscle up and take something else out or whatever. And then it might be that you're doing 50% weights and 50% calisthenics, like, and you'll get the benefit of both. You know, I'm not necessarily a purist. People can get very caught up in the, like, it's my way is the best way, and as I say, like, you can probably tell by now, like, I love calisthenics, and like, I do think it's an amazing training style, but I don't think it's the only thing that you can do to benefit yourself. Like, there's lots of different things that you can do. Pick what resonates with you, work on that, and just try different things, and you can find your own balance of calisthenics to weights to cardio. Like, find a balance that works for you, that you can make progress and you can enjoy.
Yeah. That's 45 minutes, guys. Yeah, thanks. Cheers, mate. So I just think that just on that, there's no question it's going to start making people feel better. Like, forget like trying to get the 52-inch chest or whatever your goal might. Like, if that's a goal for you, then that's fantastic. But this is about people having fantastic mobility, being strong, healthy, eating well. I think Josh said, didn't he? You can't out-train a bad diet, so you got to get your diet right. But
100%.
Yeah, because you need to. The stuff that you do, even if you do a press up, you need to feed the muscle properly.
Yeah.
Right. Or if you as you say, you're doing a hanging bar or something, then and again, you need to feed that muscle right. You know, and I think you'll be more inclined to do so. So when I was looking on Instagram, I saw you. I think you were doing some sort of 45-degree press up or something.
Yeah.
I think you had these press up, these wooden rails that you were on.
Yeah.
And your body went to a 45-degree angle and you were doing a press up.
Like a handstand.
Yeah, it's like a handstand.
Yeah,
I thought, crikey, you look at the tricep strength in that and the core strength and everything else. But where did this all start for you? If you weren't exercisey, as you said, or athletic-y, you found calisthenics somehow. So what was the background for that?
So when I was younger, I was big into rollerblading, and that was like my first love. And the thing that I loved about that was like the complexity of the movement, the tricks, the adrenaline, the community, like all of that kind of stuff. Like, I can see you have got a Liberalis skateboard t-shirt on. So like extreme sports in general, like I loved them, but rollerblading was my thing. I did it for maybe 15 years, got to a reasonable level with that, but had a lot of injuries due to the nature of that sport. So had a little break when I was kind of coming off that, where I didn't have anything, and I'd always had that. That was like kind of my identity and something I enjoyed, and something that gave me like a little bit of it just gave me a little bit of a purpose, really. And I lost that, and then I tried different things. Like I tried running, I tried the general gym stuff, And, you know, it just didn't really it didn't sit with me. It didn't resonate with me. And then I kind of stumbled across calisthenics. I saw a guy who, anyone who does calisthenics will be familiar with this guy. He's called Hannibal for King. And he was a guy in New York who was doing doing workouts on the park, and he was doing like pretty impressive stuff. Maybe not by today's standards, but back in like 2012, 2013, it was stuff that I'd never seen, like press ups, planche press ups, which is basically a press up without your feet on the floor. So you're pushing your whole body up, staying suspended off the floor. And like, I remember seeing that and I was like, Jesus. I was like, that's cool. And then I started looking at more of this kind of stuff, and I stumbled across freestyle calisthenics. Now, that really appealed to me because I'd come from the extreme sports background. I was looking at this freestyle calisthenics, and they were doing flips, they were doing spins, they were catching the bar, and I was like, that's a bit of me. That's a bit of me. So I started with like all my basics because I was really weak. Like when I started, I couldn't do a pull up. I remember the first time I went to a gym, I tried to do a pull-up. Someone was like, can you do a pull-up? I was like, of course I can do a pull-up. Behave yourself. And I went to try it, and it just didn't happen at all. And press-ups, probably do about 5 press-ups. Was like, right, I need to work on these things clearly. So I gave it a bit of time, and maybe over 6 to 12 months, I was working on this, and I got to the point where I could do a couple of pull-ups and some press-ups and stuff. And then my focus kind of shifted. The thing that kind of made me want to start it, which was all the freestyle stuff, then kind of got replaced with more of the strict style more of a gymnasticsy style of training. And I was watching a lot of this stuff on YouTube and just trying to figure out how to do it from there. And this was like, so YouTube is an amazing resource, but this is like back in maybe 2014, 2015. And there wasn't the level of tutorials. It was kind of watching people do it and being like, how are they doing that? Trying to figure it out. And then that's when it really kind of gripped me then. And I was just like, this is what I want to do. And not only like, this is what I want to do in terms of, for me, this is what I want to do for a living. And I want to like get involved in fitness, and I want to get good at this, and then I want to share this with other people. And then it's just kind of grown from that point. And it was never really so much about getting a physical outcome in terms of like looking a certain way. It was more about like, I was like, I want to learn how to do this. I want to be able to do a handstand. I want to be able to now learn how to do a freestanding handstand press up. I now want to learn how to do this. I want to learn how to do this. I'm quite greedy. I want to be able to do it all.
Yeah.
So it's been keeping me occupied for quite a long time. Yeah. And that's it really. It found me at the right time in my life where I was just looking for something, and I was just really struggling to find something that excited me. And then I stumbled across it, and then it's just gone from there. And it's something that I like. I love it now more than ever.
Yeah. It's funny what you find.
Yeah.
And it switched, it fired that desire, didn't it? And it switched. Yeah, I had a very similar thing with CrossFit, honestly.
Yeah.
I'd had a back injury. I'd had my spine fused. And I found myself sort of having a lot of hip problems and everything else. And it sounded perverse to me that I would go and do some weightlifting and running around and everything, but it didn't half help.
Yeah.
So that you kind of find, if you have injuries like that, if you don't do anything at all, basically you're just going to get worse. So even if you've got injuries, get them repaired, obviously, but you've got to move. You've got to do exercise. The body needs it in order to be able to recover properly. So you finding that at that particular point. That was about 10 years ago.
Yeah, I've been training for about 12 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anybody listening who may have an injury even, it's going to benefit you, isn't it?
100%. Well, if I can just like speak on injury, because injury, if you are into any training and you've been doing it for any amount of time, you've probably experienced an injury, and it's not nice to be injured. But I feel like some people, when they're injured, they think, "Oh, this is it. Like, it's never going to get any better." But I can assure you that if you are currently dealing with an injury, even if it's quite a serious injury, that it will get better if you start moving. But the worst thing you can do if you're injured is not do anything. Because the body needs the movement, it needs the blood flow to the area to heal. But sometimes when you're in it, especially like I've had some bad injuries over the years, and it's like especially the first injury you've ever had, because you've got no context. You're just like, my body was working, now it doesn't. Everything hurts. I'm never going to be the same again. But it's like, it will. But you need to be proactive, and you need to be doing stuff to work that area to get blood to it so that it repairs. And when you start doing that, the injury will start to get better. So just remember, there is light at the end of the tunnel if you are currently dealing with something like that.
Yeah.
But it just requires you to be proactive.
But I think that's a tremendous message. Anybody, that's the thing. Scar tissue builds up. We talked about dopamine before. You might start getting dopamine from scrolling, watching TV, eating, and maybe food that we know we shouldn't be ultra-processed food, for example, which makes you feel good for a bit, and then you wonder why you feel rubbish the next day, for example, and that could have affected your sleep. So all of those things work hand in glove, don't they?
It's a vicious cycle. Yeah, vicious cycle.
What's the benefit of the ice bath then? So that was the one thing I did see, and I was like, wow. Now I've obviously seen that again on YouTube and whatever else. So I was like, you're actively doing this. So
you still need to come and give this a go.
What is it? Okay, go on. I'll come in. I promise.
Right. Okay. So I mean, the ice bath, the benefits that you will hear about. I'll tell you basically the benefits that you'll hear about, like, that are out there, and what I believe the benefits are. So people say that the benefits are improved recovery. You get a big spike in dopamine, and then it kind of tails off nice and slowly, so you feel really good for like all day. It helps your sleep. It helps your metabolism. It helps repair injuries. It's basically like good for everything. Now, my take on it, and like, I have 2 ice baths in the gym. So really, I should be saying to people, I'm like, yeah, they're amazing. They do this, they do that, they do this, they do that. They are amazing. But the main benefit that I feel from them is not necessarily so much of a physical benefit. Like, if I train hard and get in the ice bath, it doesn't I don't get a get out of jail free card, and I don't feel any soreness the next day. In fact, I tend not to use them straight after training, because apparently it can dampen the results that you'll get from your training, because it kills the inflammation that is required for gains in muscle, gains in strength. But where I think the ice baths are amazing is in your head, and you are conquering something. So,
I'll give you an example of that.
Go
If I get a cold shower, I get annoyed really quickly. I'm like, ah.
Yeah.
That was horrible. I hated it.
Yeah, but if you work through that, you have that, because your body is basically saying, what the hell are you doing? Like, your body thinks you've fallen off the Titanic, and it's like, well, this is it now. Like, what you're doing, get out, get out, get out. But if you can get past that and you can focus on your breathing, you get to this place of stillness. Now, it does take a little bit of time to get there. Like, I notice with people, because I'm a little bit sadistic. I like watching people get in the ice bath for the first time and being like, oh, Jesus. But you can kind of see with people when they settle into it, how calm they get. And when you get out, it's one of those things where you're like, I really don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this. And you get in, you're like, I really want to get out. I really want to get out. And then you get past that and you're like, I'm okay now. And then when you get out, you're like, I'm so glad I did that. I feel amazing. It just makes you feel so, it makes me feel so kind of at ease and so at peace. So it's like, sometimes I'll get stressed. I'm like, I should be doing this, or I should be here, or I should, and you get all this chatter in your mind, and it just takes it all out, and you just kind of like, it's fine, it's all good.
It's like a therapy.
It is massively like a therapy, and like I do think that physically it is good as well. I do feel like you do get some recovery benefits, but I wouldn't say that. In my opinion, I think that is slightly overstated. But I think that the idea of them for just mental clarity and also the dopamine spike that you get from them, you feel great. You feel really good, especially like if you've got a busy head. You get in the ice bath, you can't think about like what you've got going on about your day, because for the first minute and a half, you're just thinking about surviving. And then you get to that point where you're like you're focusing on the sensations of the cold, and it feels like you're kind of getting electric waves up and down your body, and it's a very unusual sensation if you've not experienced it before. But at the same time, it's kind of nice. Yeah, it's kind of nice. So for those of you listening who have never tried an ice bath, I would encourage you to give it a go, but just make sure that you do some breathing exercises first. So you want to just kind of get yourself prepped, just nice and calm, and just really focus on like following your breath deep in, deep out. So in through the nose, out through pierced lips, and just kind of focus on that rhythm. And once you get past that minute and a half, I promise you it'll get easier. But that first minute and a half is a challenge. But we all need a bit of a challenge. Like that's the thing. That's the thing.
Take you out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. Like that is what will make you feel good about everything. It's like if you overcome a challenge in whatever you're doing, whether it's your work, whether it's your training, whether it's the ice bath, overcoming challenges is what makes us feel good.
Yeah.
So you want to try and incorporate that into your life, and you'll feel good.
When folk are going to your gym, you can see on the I was going to say the Instagram stuff, but the videos that you put out there, you can see everybody is happy. You know, you can see that camaraderie when they're there. We talked about before, didn't we? You're not on your own. You know, it doesn't matter what level you're at, but as soon as you step into that gym, you know you're going to feel better. You know, you're functionally, even 3 months' time, you're going to feel straighter. When folk go there, what can they expect as an outcome, say in 3 months' time? If you got to go regularly, how would they feel, and what sort of results would they expect to see?
I think in 3 months, people will feel way more empowered and a lot more confident in their physical ability. The first few sessions that are going to be hard. They are going to be hard. It's almost like you've got to go through a little bit of an initiation process. It's almost like a longer version of the ice bath, where I say the first minute and a half is hard, and then you're in the promised land then. It's kind of the same with the classes. Like the first few weeks are going to be difficult because it's something new. You're out your comfort zone. All the exercises are new. But once you get comfortable and you start to see that progress, you feel so empowered, and it starts to give you a belief that you're like, actually, I can do this. And that then you can transfer into a lot of other areas. And obviously the physical benefits, you're going to look a lot better. You're going to move a lot better. Your joints are going to feel a lot better. You're going to meet other people that are also on the same journey, and that's going to kind of spur you along. So you know you're around like-minded people. So it is a really good community in the gym, because obviously it is a really broad mix of abilities, but there's no egos in the gym, because there's always going to be somebody who is better in some way. So everybody kind of respects where everybody else is in their journey, and supports each other. And obviously, like, I support the people that come to the gym, and I'll help them progress. But I would say after 3 months of doing calisthenics, you're going to be in a much better place physically, emotionally, and mentally.
That's exactly the goal.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Because I think the aesthetics comes with strength.
That's a byproduct.
It's a byproduct. Rather than focus on the aesthetics, get your strength sorted, and guess what? The aesthetics will come, because you'll be eating better. As we said, you'll feel a lot better anyway. Yeah. You know, that triangle of eat, sleep.
Well, this is another thing that's worth mentioning for people, is that if you can get, focusing on aesthetics. Now, if that's your thing, like I'm not bashing it. If that's your thing, then that's cool, and if that's working for you, that is cool. But if you focus on aesthetics is all you will get. You won't necessarily build strength if you are just working on aesthetics. Or if you focus on performance and like getting more ability in your body, you will first get that. Then you will start to notice, you'll be like, oh, my arms are looking a little bit better, or my chest is looking a bit better, or my back's like coming along. And then once you start to see that, now you're going to look at other areas of your life that you can improve. You might think, right, okay, well, I'm making all right progress, better progress than I might have thought to begin with. And I've not really focused on the aesthetics. It's just kind of come. So it's like, right, what about if I look at to improve my diet now? Because my diet, there's a little bit of wiggle room. Okay, so I'm going to do that. What about if I now look, then you get to the next level and you start looking even better because your diet's kicked in. And you're like, maybe I could drink a little bit less. Or maybe I should, stop smoking. Or maybe I should do this, do that, do this. And the main thing is just getting moving, and then everything else will start to come because you will be looking at other areas that you can improve your training with, because you will really start to enjoy the training and feel empowered by it. So you'll be like, right, okay, well, this means a little bit more to you now. So you're going to try and improve other areas of your life.
How accessible are you then, Phil, to everybody? So what times are you open?
So we have classes on Monday through till Saturday. So we have some classes at 7 a.m. We have some at 9:30 a.m. We have some at 6:15 and 7:30 on the days. I mean, obviously, if people want to check out the timetable, I'll obviously leave all the details with you. But we do have things on every day. We also have teen sessions as well, and they are Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 5 p.m. And the gym is also open if people want to come in and just use the ice baths. You can come and use the ice baths whenever the gym is open with classes on. So yeah, I'd say it's pretty accessible. We've got something on every day for people to come in and use.
Can people get hold of you? We'll leave all the tags and everything else on your Instagram handles. So what is your Instagram?
So the gym Instagram is bodyproject_calisthenics. And my personal one is the real Kivell, which is Kivell.
As opposed to the not real one.
Obviously, don't follow the fake Kivell. He's an imposter.
Well, speaking around the community, because this is a community thing that we're doing. Yeah. Again, the people I've spoken to, they probably won't mind me mentioning Martina, for example, or Carissa, for example. You are highly regarded, again, in the community. You're the people you're helping. I think you're quite candid, and you're modest in what you do, because you have overcome some severe injuries yourself. Mm-hmm. You've focused on your fitness, proving that you can get yourself back on track. The people you have helped and continue to help is remarkable. It takes a lot of guts to take that step to go and get the type of gym that you have, because it's not a mainstream type of gym, but it's a fantastic facility that you've built there, Phil, through blood and tears. People might not necessarily see that, but it's a lot of effort, mate, that you're putting into this.
Yeah.
And you're helping a lot of people overcome not only mental health issues, physical issues, repairing themselves, but also, as I say, that alternative to the regular sort of run-of-the-mill gym where you are enhancing people's lives every day.
Yeah. I mean, I just, this is the only option for me. As in, not that, there are other things that potentially I could go and do, but like this is what I really want to do. And I feel like this is the path that's been laid out. It's been really easy. It's not that, all right, yeah, I've had to do work to get everything going, but it's not been hard work. It's been fun work. So it's just, and because I've got a great community around me, like a lot of the community have really helped me as well. Like I got a lot of the members at the gym that helped me set the gym up, that help me with my marketing, that refer people. Like the community around me, it's not just me. It's like it's the whole effort of the community. And I'm really lucky to have that. And I'm really lucky to have the space that I have as well, because it is a great space. And yeah, it's the thing that I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else. This is me. This is what I do. This is what I'm going to continue to do. This is what I love to do, in terms of not just for my own training, but I buzz off seeing other people, like when it clicks for them, and you can almost see it when it clicks for them, that instant when he gets something and they're like, like I can do this. I love it. I love to see that. So yeah, it's just, yeah, I love it.
Well, let's hope that.
Times.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I hope, again, if you need any help, Phil, say to everybody, around, is there anything you need to help manage your business? There are people who listen to this podcast who can offer media support and everything else, 'cause, even in terms of marketing, those are the things that, you're the heartbeat of that business. And then you've got the community around you, which then really helps cement that. And then from that, you've got to try and get the exposure. Doing these things will really help in the community. And I'm really hoping that people who are listening, something would have twigged with someone who will come and say, I need help, and I'm going to come and see Phil.
I hope so. And if that is to you that is listening, you are very, very capable, more capable than you might think you are right now. But again, it's the process, and it's just getting started with it, and then you won't look back.
Phil, that's a fantastic way to end. I think, Phil, you are a local hero. Thanks for everything that you're doing for these people in the community. Keep on doing what you're doing.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome.